Hello loves, welcome back to TigeraGitana. Today we are going to do the Patreon members, channel members voted weekly video poll for this week, and they voted on your Jupiter sign and your manifestation style. Okay, so this is going to be an astrology video for this week, and we're going to go through every single sign and talk about how they manifest. Okay, so starting with Aries. So Aries is definitely that sign that would actively work with Jupiter's energy. Jupiter, the planet of luck, expansion, abundance, higher knowledge, would work with Jupiter's energy in a more action-packed type of way, just because not only is Aries a cardinal sign, cardinal meaning it's forward movement, it wants to make moves and shift and move ahead and create change. So because Aries is very much a cardinal sign, you do see it as being in almost like rewarded for moving, for creating action. Okay, and so if you look at Aries and its ruling planet, which is Mars, you see how Mars is about passion, drive. Okay, it's about war, it's about how you are battling, how you're moving ahead. And so in order for you to use like a Jupiter and Aries energy and have it be like very, very productive, you have to make moves. You have to make sure that you're not trying to be stagnant, or you're not trying to hold on to any negative toxicity, that you're actively working on new things, especially where Jupiter falls, which house your Jupiter falls in. So like, let's say your Jupiter in Aries falls in your 11th house. Your 11th house is the house of like friends, society, social media and stuff. So it would not be good for a Jupiter in Aries in the 11th house to not talk to their friends, not talk to or try to network, not try to, you know, just ignore everybody. It would not be lucky for a Jupiter Aries to do that, because then they're not working with their own energy and how it can bring blessings to them just by networking, just by saying, hey, I like your shirt, and just, you know, talking about where that person got their shirt, and all of a sudden they were the owner of a company and they wanted you to do the photography for it because they really like your style, because you showed them your Instagram page through the conversation of the shirt, just because you took that chance. So it's all about initiating in order for you to receive the luck and opportunity. And because Aries is a very like go-getter type of sign, it almost might not even seem like they're getting lucky. It might just seem like they're just doing their own thing. Like they're just, Jupiter Aries is just very, very action based. And it's just like about like, especially if you're an Aries already, it might just feel like you don't have any push in luck in that regard. But it definitely helps to have that Jupiter and Aries when you're initiating change and creating, like, just making choices, especially if you just came out, like, let's say you came out of a relationship, you know, you just graduated school, and now you're just like, okay, should I take some time off? Should I go network? How do I go about like moving forward with this energy? It's all about taking the next step. For Jupiter and Aries is always about that. Now, Jupiter in Taurus, okay? Jupiter in Taurus is all about the finances, the pleasure, the enjoyment. So you want to look at where the Jupiter in Taurus will fall for you. If you have Jupiter in Taurus falls in your houses, because that's where you're going to see the activity in. So if you have Jupiter in Taurus in your second house, honey, you're going to be very focused on your finances, okay? You're going to be very, very focused on the things that you value, whether that be people, clothes, cars, houses, okay, whatever it is that you value, you're going to have a higher focus on that. And when you focus on those things, when you focus and have a structure for that area, for that house, and you say, okay, this is how much money I have saved, this is how much money I'm investing, this is how much stocks I have, this is, I think I'm gonna set intention to buy a house. It's all about attaining with the Jupiter and Taurus. It has a higher awareness of attaining, because Taurus is a earth sign, so it's not a fire sign like Aries, an earth sign, and it's very grounded, it's very fixed, it wants to be comfortable, so it wants to keep things for long term. So you want to look for long-term investments, not short-term investments, for Jupiter and Taurus to see success in. So let's say Jupiter and Taurus, like depending again on which house it falls in, but let's say it's still in that second house, Jupiter and Taurus just finished buying some stocks, but they're deciding that they don't want to sell for, like, they're not going to sell for a while. They're just going to do long-term, you know, trading. They're just going to leave it there, build their portfolio, all that jazz. And then literally, I don't know, a month later, 8 months later, a year later, okay? Because Jupiter in Taurus, sometimes it can move a little bit slower because it's an earth sign. Sometimes it'll take a little bit longer for you to feel that success and that luck. So that stock could have multiplied, the company could have split that stock, and now you have twice as many of the stocks that you had, and now you just have more money. So it's kind of like you're able to tap into that Jupiter energy, especially with the finances, with the luck, the opportunity, just by being a little bit more grounded, being a little bit more fixed, and, you know, taking your time to see, you know, your seeds bear you fruit. Okay. Now, Jupiter in Gemini. Jupiter in Gemini, it's all about communication. It is your voice that brings you your luck, that your knowledge, your expansion, your voice, okay, your voice. So you have to be very mindful. Jupiter in Gemini's in any house that it falls in has to be very mindful of the things that it says, the things that it says out loud, okay? Because if a Jupiter in Gemini is actively, don't forget that Jupiter can expand negative energies just as much as Jupiter can expand positive energies. So if you're like over here shit talking your money and saying you're gonna be broke for the rest of the month because you just spent something on something and you're not gonna get that money back, that's exactly what's gonna happen. So you have to be very conscious, like you have to be very hyper conscious of your words. If you have a Jupiter in Gemini, you have to be very aware of what you're saying, how you are expressing yourself. So for example, if you have Jupiter and Gemini in your 6th house, I would be very, very mindful shit talking about your body, period. Okay, period. Why? Because you can easily manifest illnesses, you can manifest mental health problems, you can manifest different diseases just by you calling yourself crazy, just by you calling and saying, or let's say that you look weird or your body's hurting. It's just gonna make it hurt more. If you don't focus on your healing and mentally say I'm healed, or work, or even do affirmations, you're not gonna be able to like heal a lot of things because you are actively shit talking your own energy. So it's a very, very, like, you have to have an awareness on your throat chakra for Jupiter and Gemini. Your voice can make you or break you. It can open your path or close your path. It can open you up to a lot of knowledge and a lot of different friends, a lot of like a huge friend circle. That's another thing about Jupiter and Gemini that always tends to happen. You tend to have a little bit of a bigger friend circle of people who know different things. Like it's almost like you have resources for so many different areas of life. So you're able to expand your knowledge in a lot of different ways. Now, Jupiter in Cancer. Okay, Jupiter is actually exalted in Cancer. Okay, what is an exaltation, Abby? An exaltation is basically which sign the planets feel the most comfortable being in, even though they rule a different sign. Okay, this is dictated by a certain point, but I'm just going to explain it like that because that is the easiest way for you to understand what I'm trying to say without making it more complicated mentally for some of y'all. So Jupiter is actually exalted in Cancer, and we'll talk about which sign it's in its fall a little bit later, but Jupiter is actually exalted in Cancer. So Jupiter in Cancer tends to be a little bit more spiritual. There's more of a spiritual nourishment that comes from a Jupiter in Cancer. There's an awareness of what Cancers know, how they attain their knowledge, how they can bring the nourishment, and where. So let's say, for example, you have Jupiter and Cancer in the 11th house. Okay, Jupiter and Cancer in the 11th house highlights someone who's a spiritual leader, highlights someone who is able to nurture the public to some capacity, nurture their friends, be someone who can stand above the rest and have a presence with their voice, with the way they show up. It's almost kind of like when your mom walks into a room with your family. You know that's your mom. You know who she is. You know what she did. You know how she taught you. There's a self-respect that happens there, especially with other members of your family. They are recognized in that particular way because they did that shit. Okay, so it's in that same capacity. Having a Jupiter in Cancer highlights nourishment, but intellectual nourishment. Because Cancer is a water sign, it highlights spiritual nourishment, emotional nourishment, and it connects you deeply to the divine feminine energies. And so Jupiter in Cancer is a very, very beautiful placement for spiritual development, growth, and to help others spiritually develop and grow. So when you have a Jupiter in Cancer in the 11th house energy, you can be like a spiritual leader, a preacher, a shaman, someone who's actually leading within the community, and you have that success and abundance come through within that 11th house energy, because that's the house of society, social media. Like, so even if, like, let's say you just started posting like different quotes or something on social media and you have a Jupiter in Cancer, there are people who are going to see it and be like, oh my God, I resonate with that so much. Like the things that you resonate to, that you want to share with others, will be highlighted in that way. Well, people will be like, oh my God, I resonate with that. That brought me so much peace today. Like that made me think today. So it's a way of nourishing people where it's like more collectively open and aware. So again, it depends on where Jupiter and Cancer will fall in which house. But if you look at which house and you add the definition, then you'll know what it is. Okay. Now, Jupiter in Leo. Okay, Jupiter in Leo wants to show out. Okay, it is best used. You can use and work with Jupiter and Leo energy when you're actively allowing yourself to shine in places. And this, again, it always depends on what house that it is. So let's say you have Jupiter and Leo in your 10th house. For you, because the 10th house is the house of career, social status, work, legacy is the legacy house. For you, in order for you to have that success and that expansion, and have that recognition, okay, you would have to actively let yourself shine in those spaces. So let's say you're working and you want to get the lead on, you want to work on a project, you want to lead the project, you asking for that role. And also you'll also be able to be more trusted in those roles as well. That's another thing that Jupiter will do, that he'll bless you by other people's perceptions of you. Will be like, oh, I can trust this person. I think they can handle this. I think they can present it in the way that we need. But it gives you a way with words. It gives you a way. It's like you need to shine. You need to be in the presence of others. Other people need to see you. Okay. So ways of not using Jupiter in Leo is to not lock yourself up in your house for the rest of your life, because you need to be seen. You need to be, especially again, depending on which house it falls in, you need to be seen. You need to have a presence. You need to make sure that you are out in the open, that you are communicating with others, that you are trying to, hold that presence and allow yourself to shine. And that's where Jupiter will be able to bless you with the luck, with the opportunity and stuff, because you'll be able to be recognized and you'll remember, like people will remember you because of your aura, your je ne sais quoi, and that's that Jupiter and Leo energy. Okay. They'll be able to recognize that within you. And so it'll be able to actually help you in the long run, and you'll be able to see opportunities open up for you just by you letting yourself shine, boo. Okay. Now, Jupiter in Virgo. Okay. Now, Jupiter in Virgo, because Virgo is all about health, healing, serving others, is the mundane stuff. Okay. Jupiter in Virgo definitely is one of those areas that you have to do the work in, because Virgo is very like meticulous. It can be a very perfectionist sign. So like, let's say you have like Jupiter in Virgo in your 4th house. Okay. And your 4th house again is a house of family. It's a house of your soul. It's a house of the mother. Okay. So you have like this highlight on family members and stuff like that. And you have a Jupiter in Virgo. You might be like known as a very like, you have a particular way of like mothering, or you have a particular way of teaching, or you might want to homeschool your kids, and you might actually see the benefits of doing so because your Jupiter's in Virgo. You might just have the way that you want to teach your child will actually help that child grow up and have an actual stable, grounded, like 9th house energy of education. Like will have a more grounded foundation just because you decided to teach them, because you think that you can teach them better than the education system, which, by the way, do you, boo. Go get it. But Jupiter in Virgo just really highlights doing the work, putting in the work, and seeing the success of you doing the work, especially on the everyday stuff, like doing things like every single day. Like let's say you wanted to start a new practice. So let's say Jupiter is in Virgo in your 6th house for you. And you're trying, or in your 1st house, and you're trying to actively, work on your body. Maybe you want to lose weight, or you want to like focus on healing your body from, or detoxing yourself from X, Y, Z, and B. Like maybe you've been eating really bad. So having a Jupiter in Virgo helps you heal your body, helps you amplify that. And when you can heal yourself, other people will be able to see that reflected within you. So they'll be able to see and hold that, like, oh my God, what did they do? I wonder what they do to like stay in shape, because they're always like on point. Like that kind of narrative comes from having that Jupiter in Virgo. So you get to expand that energy of like that Virgo energy of like almost like perfection, when you're actually doing the work, and be seen as like, wow, they're so healthy, they're so like glowing, they're so like on top of things, like they know how to get things together, their house is always clean, their home is always a vibe. Like it's this kind of like, it's Jupiter and Virgo is always a vibe. It's just a really, really nice smooth vibe, and it just opens up a lot of opportunities in the smallest ways, because it's all about it connects to that, to the Mercury part of Virgo, obviously, because Virgo's ruled by Mercury, which is about the mind, is the perception of it all. Things are opened up for you. You might have like a je ne sais quoi about, like, you know, you might just be really good at, what's it called, home design, and kind of like putting things together and doing like the feng shui of it all in your home. And so you might actually get hired. It'll be like, one of your friends will be like, you know what, you know how to do this, can you just help me? Like you'll just have that kind of vibe about you, where it's almost like a subtle luck and opportunity, but you can actually work with it in big ways depending on what house it falls in. Now, Jupiter in Libra. Okay, Jupiter in Libra has a higher awareness. Depending on which house this falls in, has a higher awareness of the law. If you have Jupiter in Libra in the 7th house, listen, you may or may not have multiple marriages within this lifetime. But you also might lean towards being more of a lawyer, because the 7th house is also about lawsuits, like focusing on like the legalities. Okay, so not just about marriages, but the legalities of the thing. You might also have quite a bit of enemies that accumulate if you have Jupiter and Libra in your 7th. But Jupiter and Libra talks about working together in a partnership. Okay, so you get your luck and your opportunity. You're able to learn, you're able to grow when you're working together. So let's say you have Jupiter and Libra in your 3rd house, and you're in high school and you are having a really hard time learning about, you know, like grasping a concept in math or something like that. You need to get a tutor. Okay, you need to work with someone else. It's the partnership. When you work with someone else, you're able to understand things a lot easier, because it's not just you running a narrative or you trying to understand things in a one perspective. Is someone else sitting down with you within that partnership kind of energy and saying, hey, I'm gonna tutor you, I'm gonna help you like this, and I think we can do this, and boom boom boom, this is how I do it, and this is why I think it's easy. And you're like, oh, okay, I can see why, because Libra's an air sign, so it's all about triggering the mind in that type of aspect, and finding it enjoyable. So if they are actually like enjoying the person who's tutoring them, and they're actually like a dope person, they love to hang out with that person, even better, because they're finding pleasure in doing the studying. Okay, and so it's all about partnership. Jupiters and Libras need partnership. They need to work with other people. They can't just run shit by themselves. They cannot get luck and opportunity by themselves. They need to work with other people to get that abundance and success. It's almost like being in a duo type of band or something like that, or like having like like being like in a duo group. Like you can't just be a Beyonce. You can't be a solo singer. You need to be in a duo in order for the band to be successful, because that's what that Jupiter and Libra is requiring of you. It needs you to have that foundation so you can actually have that luck, that opportunity, and that growth. Jupiter and Scorpio. Okay, Jupiter and Scorpio. Jupiter and Scorpio. Whew. Depending on which house this is, listen, this basically says that you get your luck, opportunity, you learn, okay, through your experiences, through your own self-evolution, to your own soul evolution. Jupiter and Scorpio is a really great placement to actually do more soul level work, because Scorpio is all about diving deeper into your soul. So this is death work, okay? Great placement to be like a death doula. So if you have like Jupiter and Scorpio in your 8th house, you can totally be a death doula. You can work at the morgue. You can work as, you know, like with a detective. You can go dive into the mysteries. You can like do and like even be like work on documentaries and like searching for the truth, or like, you know, doing like scientific research where you're studying something and you're actively trying to find the answer to something and discover something new. That is heavy Jupiter and Scorpio energy. It's a very transformative energy, very intuitive energy as well, and especially when it comes to discoveries, very intuitive energies. Powerful for deep soul level healing, to heal past life work, to heal ancestor work, to heal ancestor trauma. It's just a really, really, really powerful it's like you get your knowledge, like it's almost like your knowledge is like there's no textbook to it. It's more like it's in you. Like the knowledge is already in you and you do not need to tap into, you don't necessarily need to read a book to know what it says, kind of vibe. So it's a really powerful placement to have. Jupiter in Scorpio in like the 3rd house, you can literally actively be reading people to the filth. This is kind of like one of those aspects where if you wanted to be one of those mediums who, you know, is out here doing the most and like having a show, like, and all that kind of stuff, like you wanted to just or even just talking about different energies or being a healer, or you're able to just tap in and connect spiritually and just read people without even like without having cards, without having anything of the sort. This is a really great placement to do intuitive work. Having Jupiter in any water sign is great for spiritual work, but Jupiter in Scorpio, oh my god, next level. Jupiter in Sagittarius. So Jupiter actually rules Sagittarius. That is his ruling placement. That is his ruling sign. So Jupiter in Sagittarius highlights knowledge. It highlights travel. It highlights like expansion through that work. So Jupiter in Sagittarius actively needs to be exploring, learning something new, kind of like being a little bit free. It's very like, you know, it's a very like carefree energy sometimes because Jupiter. Sagittarius is a mutable sign, is a changeable sign. It goes with the flow of things. So depending on where you have Jupiter and Sagittarius, so let's say you have Jupiter and Sagittarius in your 1st house, you might be seen a little bit as like you kind of do whatever you want, you kind of do your own thing and you get luck along the way. That's kind of the thing about Jupiter and Sag in a fire sign, is that Jupiter and Sagittarius expands because Sagittarius is born lucky because of Jupiter, because this is ruling planet. So it amplifies that energy. When you have a Jupiter and Sagittarius, you are very lucky in the realm of like traveling, going abroad, getting to know someone. Like you can go into a village, not know anyone, and like actually connect with the people, talk to them about stuff, because Jupiter and Sagittarius is just, that's what they rule. That's what they do. Okay. They go in, they learn, they study, they get to know people. Okay. It's great for traveling, great for being like, you know, in every other country, every other couple of months. But depending on where you see this house, you can see like issues, or you can see like a lot of luck. So if you have Jupiter and Sag in the 2nd house, you might spend a lot of money or all of your money on trips and stuff like that. And you have to be very mindful of overspending or not having, not being grounded. And it really depends on the rest of your energies, because I do feel like not every sign is meant to be grounded, but because we're earthly bodies and our bodies physically anchor us down, you do have to work with grounding yourself at some capacity. And Sagittarius is one of those signs that does not want to ground. They want to be everywhere in every country on those grounds, but they do not want to necessarily say, this is it, I'm staying right here, this is what I'm doing forever. Like they just can't do that. So they have to kind of go with the flow of where they're being called to. But it's a very beautiful placement to have, because you do automatically see that luck push through, especially because Sag is a fire sign as well. So you see things happening quicker. So if you have like Jupiter and Sag, you can win the lottery. But you can also, again, you can spend a lot of your money on certain things, whether it be on books, on studies. You could have a really big library. So yeah, a lot of different things. Jupiter in Capricorn. Okay, so Jupiter is actually in its fall in Capricorn. Fall meaning that it's not comfortable being in Capricorn. It doesn't work its best in Capricorn, because it's just not. And if you look at it, it's opposite to Cancer. So this is why. Anyway, I'm not trying to confuse you today. But Jupiter is in its fall in Capricorn, so it does not necessarily do its best work. It struggles a little bit to use Capricorn's energy to the best of its ability. And the reason why is because while Jupiter is all about expansion and like, you know, openness, it's a very open planet. It's a very like explore, run, free, wild child. Capricorn's like, but I have a goal in mind, and this is what I'm tunnel visioning over here. Okay, I'm over here. What do you mean open to everything? You know what I mean? So it becomes kind of one of those things where in order for you to use Jupiter and Capricorn's energy productively, you just have to try to stay open to change, open to being a little bit more flexible, especially when it comes to working with Jupiter's energies, traveling, learning, picking up a book here and then. Because Capricorns themselves actively create their own world, and they choose what they want to be in those worlds. And so when Jupiter says, it's like, but you don't want anything else, you don't want to look at anything else, you're not curious about anything else, like what's going on, it's like Capricorn can get like very like, I have my goals and I am going towards these goals. So in a way, yes, having those set goals in mind can definitely keep you in check, but looking at which houses this would fall in can kind of give you a little bit of idea of what you need to work on and where you might need to be a little bit more flexible in. So if you have Jupiter and Capricorn in a fixed sign house, then you might need to open your mind about, so like let's say you have Jupiter in Capricorn in your second house, okay? Great placement for business, to start a business and get money, but you might have to look at how you can, like Jupiter might push you to be more open about how you can get more money, about the way you market your business, how many different, like maybe doing like let's say you wanted to do a business and you just wanted to be a brick and mortar, maybe having a social media for it, maybe having like different like building up your audience socially, building up like a foundation where people know about your business, they are always curious or wanting to come through, or getting promoted and stuff like that. So just being more open to how to market, how to connect to others, how to expand your business in many different ways, like even like taking your brick and mortar to also an online shop kind of thing. So that's what you kind of see having Jupiter and Capricorn in the second or in the 10th house kind of vibe. But it does take a little work to, you know, open yourself up from just the way that you want to do things to doing things just wiser. That's the key word, wiser, because Jupiter is all about that knowledge. So if you actively try to work with the energy in a way where you're just like, you're not trying to be like stubborn about how to achieve your success, you'll be able to grab more success and receive more success because you're more open to the ways that you receive them. Jupiter in Aquarius, which we're in right now. So Jupiter in Aquarius is all about society. It's all about the collective, technology. It is all about coming together. So if you have a Jupiter in Aquarius, it's about the collective. You cannot just work on your own. This is another one of those. If you actually look at all the air signs, their message themselves are very, very similar, because Jupiter in Gemini needs to communicate with somebody. Jupiter in Libra, partnership, and Jupiter in Aquarius, it's about the collective, it's about the people, it's about how you're interacting with others. So you cannot complete, like if you detach yourself completely, because that's also ruled by Aquarian energy, but you never like bring it to the public, bring it to, you know, your friendship circles, bring it to the people that you care about, like share some of that knowledge, some of those deeper things that you've discovered within yourself, then you're misusing that energy and you're not going to be able to tap into the luck energy. Jupiter in Aquarius benefits and thrives not only from learning from society, and this is why like Aquarius rules, like they love documentaries, they love like, you know, discovering and investigating and stuff like that. So that the Jupiter and Scorpio energy, very similar. So they need to kind of do that to, you know, do their studies and learn and stuff. But if they bring that knowledge to the public and be like, hey, I studied this for 10 years. Here's what you need to know about this X, Y, Z, and B. They can see a lot of growth and opportunity just by teaching others, just by working with the collective. And depending on where, you know, you have Jupiter and Aquarius ruling, like let's say you have Jupiter and Aquarius in your 9th house, great placement for professors, teachers who are well-liked, well-liked, and who have a passion for teaching others, and for like actually training the next generation to be something, like they're passionate about their job. So it's a really, really beautiful placement for collective work. Jupiter and Pisces, okay? Jupiter and Pisces is great for creative work, very like intuitively driven, but it's really, really great for the arts. So if you have Jupiter and Pisces in your 1st house, you're going to be known as an artist, okay? You're going to be known as just that creative, like you can bring something to the table, you can easily come up with a concept. You're like the secret weapon, the secret sauce, okay, to getting those kind of like juices flowing. You're known for it. You have a je ne sais quoi about you. It taps you into spiritual work as well. So if you have like Jupiter in Pisces in your 8th house or something like that, you are able to transform a lot spiritually. You would definitely need to reevaluate a lot of different things as well, especially when it comes to your unconscious mind, your subconscious mind, because, you know, 8th house is ruled by Scorpio, which is the unconscious mind, and Pisces is the subconscious mind. So it's all about what those dreams, okay? The things that lie underneath the thing, Okay, the cloud, that cloudy space that, you know, you have to dig in deeper to find out different truths and kind of create creatively through them. And so Jupiter and Pisces gets his luck by actively working with that area. The one thing that I will say about Jupiter and Pisces, be careful with the lying, depending on where you have Jupiter and Pisces. If you have Jupiter and Pisces in the 3rd house, I wouldn't trust half the shits that come out your mouth, quite frankly. I mean that with love, but it can be a little bit of a toxic placement if you misuse it. And if you're already a Pisces and you, I need to look at the Mercury sign. I need to look at some of the other placements to see how well balanced it is. It can be a really, really good placement to do a lot of creative work and to be known for your creative work as well. But you can also like set yourself up for to just get slapped by some people, is what I'm gonna call it. So I hope that y'all enjoyed that breakdown. I hope that, you know, you ran and looked at your Jupiter sign and you can like see what your manifestation style is like. I definitely like hope that y'all stay blessed always and forever. I will see y'all in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe and do all the things. If you want to be a channel member, you can hit the join button below. I will see y'all in the next video. Bye.